Hi, this is William Donahoo, and I'm with Donahoo Associates, and we're talking about prevailing wage. What we want to talk about here is overtime, and overtime on prevailing wage projects in California. And the overtime law generally is any time you work over 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week, overtime is required. And there are some exceptions to that in private work and other nuances, but in the prevailing wage area, overtime is spelled out by the Department of Industrial Relations and the various classifications of work that's being performed. The general rule of thumb is that overtime is when you're working, again, over 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week. But you can't do things like 410s and then not pay overtime for those. And also, regardless of how many hours you work during the week, the weekends, Saturday is treated as time and a half, Sunday is treated as double time, and many holidays are also treated as double time. And so those are very specific delineations and constructs in the prevailing wage world that apply when you're working on a prevailing wage project. The other thing that we see a lot, and just bring to your attention so that you can look at your paycheck stub more carefully, is let's say you work a private job and a public works job in the same day, and you worked 13 hours, or you worked 11 hours. Some of those hours are overtime hours, and employers usually like to pay the overtime on the private rate or the cheaper rate. But the way to figure out what the rate is as soon as you hit 8 hours in a day, whatever you're doing after that is the double time or the overtime, the time and a half. So if you work in the yard for half the day and then you go out to a project for 8 hours, so let's say you have 11 hours total, and you worked 3 hours in the yard, and then you worked 4 hours, 5 hours on the job, that's prevailing wage, and then you continued on working, the overtime is going to be a prevailing wage overtime rate. So make sure you look at that carefully on your check stub and on your timesheets, and that you're getting paid the proper overtime rate. If you have questions, you think you might not be getting it right, give us a call. We're happy to go over it with you confidentially and help you understand whether you're being paid properly or whether you're owed money.